I think the best way to describe what it is that I do is a fusion of painting that's rooted in a tradition that goes back to the Renaissance and a mix with illustration and contemporary art. I've drawn for as long as I can remember. Been drawing since I was probably 4 years old. I was a really sick kid. I had asthma, like growing up, pretty bad. So like I wasn't allowed to. My mom was, she was pretty. She kept me inside a lot. So I think the best thing for me was to have drawing at my disposal to, make staying indoors a lot more pleasant. I can't say I've had many other interests outside of trying sports here and there, Yeah, it's the only thing I've ever done. It's the thing I've done the longest. And I think it's just the most the most native language that comes to me, is visual language. I feel like sometimes I can communicate things visually better than I can do with words. The work always has some kind of narrative that's driving it, or the idea spawns from either an experience or a memory, to not necessarily do a piece of work that is like an illustration or a depiction of an event or trying to show a story on canvas, but it's a little bit more abstract than that. If I can go far back, I think Velázquez, Rembrandt are two painters that really speak to me still to this day. And then I'll fast forward to the 19th century. I mean, I think that's where I spend most of my time studying anybody. Sargent, John Singer Sargent, Anders Zorn, Joaquin Sorolla. I think those are my three main influences in terms of aesthetic, technique, composition, color, storytelling. I mean, brush economy, and just there's a sense of just taste. I feel like so much of what those guys do is it's not so much about how they paint, but it's what they leave out, is also a huge part of what you don't include in a painting is huge, you know? Yeah, I've been buying art books since I was like a teenager. And you know, my tastes have changed over the years, of course, but yeah, my appreciation for figurative painting, I feel like, has never gone away. So most of my book collection is centered on mostly figurative painters and realist painters. A lot of books on illustration also. I mean, there's so many, I can go on and on, but yeah, those are definitely some of the people that I, old and new, who I constantly go back to for just inspiration. I was born and raised in the Bronx in 1988. And yeah, I lived and went to school there right up until I went to college. Growing up in the Bronx was, you know, just like any other kid. You know, we didn't have much. I grew up pretty poor. But it was, for me, it was an access thing, you know. It was what I didn't have access to that I feel like became very apparent even at, you know, in childhood. And I don't want to make my childhood seem like it was like horrible or anything like that, but you know, we definitely didn't have much, and it was, I was painfully aware of it. I started working very early. I met someone at the age of 15, rather, Mark Lawrence. He was my first mentor, teacher, like my first boss. There was an airbrush shop called Color Crew Custom Graphics, and I went food shopping one day for my mom. I was just running some errands for her, and on the way back from the supermarket, I saw this like shop, and there were, you know, these like painted canvases, skateboard decks, hats, you name it, custom sneakers. It was really cool. And I noticed it on the way home, and then I went back later that afternoon to just kind of poke my head around and ask some questions. And I brought my little book of drawings with me. And I was drawing a lot of like anime and like copying comics at the time. And I remember going in there and asking questions if they were teaching like how to do this thing. And I remember it was like first week out of school in the summer, and yeah, you know, the rest is history. I spent the next 7 years working there as an airbrush artist. That was my first like art job. I learned what it was to do art, like somewhat, you know, in a professional capacity, to do painting as a product, you know. Very thankful to have 7 years of experience with those guys, and I learned, it essentially created like this like go-getter, you know, hustle spirit in me, you know. Every job I ever had after that, like my like post-collegiate career, I feel like I carry that same, you know, like mentality. That's probably the most important, I think, of probably the biggest life-changing experience of, you know, growing up in the Bronx. That was definitely like the moment for that changed everything for me. I usually start a project by either doing some rough thumbnail sketches, which then lead to either gathering reference in the form of found imagery, but mainly I like to hire, bring in a model, whether it's a professional model or a friend, and do a photo shoot, and based on the shots that I get rather from the shoot, I'm able to sort of build an image out of, the foundation that I have there in the reference photos that I shoot with the model. I like to shoot my own reference because it's just control. You have control over the posing, the lighting, the color, costume, props, background. You get to really set up the scene for what it is that you're trying to convey. And from there, I'll move forward with a more refined or polished drawing. If the piece is going to be like a work on paper, like a drawing, for example, I'll just move forward and work from the reference and create a drawing that way, or finish work on paper that way. Or I'll do a sketch that'll be then transferred to a canvas. I'll either use like a projector to enlarge my drawing on the canvas or panel. For digital, it's very similar, It starts out usually with a kind of sketch or a reference. And then from there, I'm able to start drawing and painting right into, my software on the tablet. So it's kind of they all share similarities in process. Starts with an idea or a sketch that'll sort of start to make that idea feel tangible. And then once I feel like that idea is feeling like something that has legs, then I'll move forward gather reference images, you know, take photos of a model or the figures that are going to be in the scene, or if it's not figures, you know, if they're objects or if they're like a scene. And then I move forward with the, you know, the drawing, painting, or digital painting. All of the processes are sort of similar, but they all kind of stem from this initial idea. I would love to be, you know, contribute in some way to films, you know, movie projects. But aside from that, I would love to get into publishing. I'm a huge collector of art books, and they've served me in a way that, you know, they've been like a teacher for me. They also have, you know, it's how does art history get documented? You know, I feel like I've learned, you know, about some of the great masters in art history through the books and buying books about and reading books about their life and their career. And in some way, I want to join, you know, and participate in this lineage of publishing books, and you know, it's a way to document my own career and talk about, you know, my own story in this form. You never know who's gonna pick it up someday and maybe learn about you, learn about your story. So